Hello and welcome to an Energy Transfer Solutions video. My name's Cory, Mr. Good Tower Technician. In this video, we're going to be going over the visual inspection for a PM. Behind me is an Evapco 2-cell tower, along with a Sage 3 panel. In this inspection, we're going to be looking at the moving components, like the 2 fan motors and the 2 spray pumps, followed by checking the connections in the Sage 3 panel. So that way we're able to get readings for volts and amps to be able to put down on the paperwork that ultimately gets saved and sent to the customer. So stick around, let's get into it. Okay, so we already disconnected the power for the fan for safety reasons. So we're gonna go ahead up top and I'm gonna show you what's inside. I'll meet you up there. Okay, so we're at the top of the tower, and this is where the fan assembly is. So you can kind of see why we had to shut power off in order to be able to get in here to visually inspect the bearings. Now I've already spun the fan to see if there was any unusual noise, and then I went ahead and inspected the top bearing. Everything seems to be fine. There's no excessive grease and none of the rings fell out. So I always focus more on the bottom bearing because we've had a few calls where we had to replace the bottom bearing due to the belt being overly tight. That's causing an unusual wear for that bearing and having it wear out a lot faster. Now this bearing I have replaced 5 years ago. Still holding strong because we made sure the tension of the belt was correct. With the tension of the belt, you always want to make sure from center it's a 1/2 inch play in and a 1/2 inch play out. So it's a total of 1 inch of play in and out. Okay, with this cell, I already showed you what we look for in inspection for bearings, the belt, and also what we look for in the sprayers to make sure that they're spraying evenly across the coils. So now, the final part is actually greasing the bearings. With this, it makes it 10 times easier than trying to use a pump. So let me finish this up, and I'm going to do the other side as well, and I'll see you down at the Sage 3 panel. So this is the Sage 3 panel. This is what's inside. This is what Evapco makes for the cooling tower. It's basically the brains of the whole tower to be able to run proficiently and to be able to save energy. This tells the tower when to bring on the spray pumps, when to bring the fan on at low speed, and to start ramping up if it needs it accordingly. Well, since there's both cells, they both have their own individual VFDs along with their own contactors that control all those moving parts. So we have all our stuff here for the fan and bypass for auto, and we also have the spray pump, which I'm going to go and use my meter to get the volts and amps that I need. These are your switches and contactors for the VFDs. You have one for one VFD and the second for the second VFD. So we're going to test the second one, and I'll do the rest of the other ones off camera. So what we actually look for is we're going to test the connections. That's 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 2 and 3. So it's pretty consistent. So now we're going to go to the amps. So right there we have our number, and it's... Alright, so here is our spray pump. There's one on the other side for that cell. So I've already ran it. I don't see any residues coming out. Even though this is wrapped, water will eventually show if there's any sort of leaks. So I've already looked inside. I don't see any leaks coming out. The pump is running and everything seems to be good. I've already inspected the other side, so both spray pumps are good to go. Let's go take a look inside the basin. All right, so now we're in the lower portion of the tower. As you can see, the coils being above me. I visually inspect all the coils to make sure there's no leaks or anything that's showing some sort of residue. Also make sure that there's not a lot of scale buildup. We maintain these towers for them and clean them yearly, so everything's been doing pretty good as far as the inlet louvers, making sure that they're not clogged as well, because that's where it's got to breathe. I also, since while I'm here, I'll inspect the basin, see if there's a high amount of sediment that forms up. These towers are really good for cooling, but they're really good at being a vacuum too, because they'll suck up a lot of dirt. There seems to be a little bit here, but it's not a lot. So inspecting everything else, making sure that the filaments on both sides, the heating elements, to make sure that they're not distorted or broken, because that's what they need to use if it drops below 40 degrees to keep this water from freezing. And then also inspecting the grate to make sure there's nothing on there. So far, this tower has been perfect all year round and have not had any issues with it because they keep up with the maintenance of everything. All right, so this is our final stage. Taking everything that we noted for anything that might need to be a concern of replacement, and also taking all of our numbers and putting it here on the computer. This is the final paperwork that we send to the office, which then the office will then send out to the customer. So that way they can be made aware of what we did and what we might have found. So I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna throw it up so you're able to see it. Okay, so that concludes our video on doing a visual inspection PM on a cooling tower. We do offer another type of PM as well, where it's a cleaning. That's going to require a secondary person to be on site to help get this tower cleaned and still be able to do the PM like we just did today. Now, just because this is an Evapco tower doesn't mean that we don't service other towers. We also service other towers like BAC and Marley, just a few. Evapco makes aftermarket parts for those type of towers as well. Now this tower here, the reason why they only get a cleaning once a year is because they actually have a water treatment. The water treatment helps keep all the green algae down and the scale buildup, which makes my job a lot easier, being able to wash this thing, rinse it out, get it back up and running, so that way the customer doesn't have to worry about anything failing on this tower. Thus is why we do PMs on cooling towers. So I want to thank you for being a part of this video and watching what it takes to do a PM. Until next time, I'll see ya.